Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Fronteras, A Changing America. I'm Anthony Moreno. New federal funding will help establish a new mobile children's museum in Doña Ana County. Joining us to share more about the mobile museum and how it may help children and families in our region is Kimmi Cravens, Museum Development Coordinator with Ngage New Mexico. Thank you so much for joining us, Kimmi.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on the program in studio. Of course, it's great to be back in studio. I'd like to start off with learning a little bit more about your organization, Ngage New Mexico. Can you share with our audience what the mission of Ngage is?
Sure. Ngage is an organization that's really committed to improving education outcomes in New Mexico, specifically in southern New Mexico. And we work through collective impact with the Success Partnership with agencies all across the state, across the region, and the county to really bring our efforts together and improve education and improve access to education with our students here.
Now that collaboration, the Success Partnership, can you share with us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the Success Partnership is a collective impact organization. We have recently been focused on early childhood education through the Early Childhood Coalition. We are launching now the Kindergarten Through Career Coalition to really go through the full spectrum of education from, birth all the way through career readiness.
Okay, now let's talk about this federal funding
Yes.
that became available to help make this museum possible. Share with us a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Senator Heinrich's office contacted us when they heard a little bit about our Children's Museum project, wanted to learn more about it, and in learning about it, they decided to pursue a federal allocation for us to really launch our mobile museum project, Vamos Niños Play to Learn. So it's incredible because it's really given us momentum to finish this fundraising piece to get the mobile unit out and in our county and to our kids.
Vamos Niños, Doña Ana County's first mobile museum.
Yes.
Tell us about this project. I know you're very excited about it.
I am. It's I joined Ngage about a year ago, but this is a project that's been in the works since about 2015. So there's an incredible group of volunteers through the Children's Museum Committee that have been involved in this. A lot of early childhood educators, many from NMSU and other places around. And they really realized that there was no way for families with kids in early childhood age group to access different resources, to find out what was available for them and their families. And it started out as a hub, a place to come together to get information. And as the idea transformed, it became a children's museum because there is so much value in children's museums and that we can see in cities across the country and around the world.
Okay, now let's better understand this museum. Can you kind of share with us what we can expect?
Right. So a children's museum is not an art museum where you can look and don't touch. It is entirely based on play-based learning. There is incredible opportunity through play-based learning for children. So rather than going and learning about colors, for example, our kids will be able to go to a light table with different colors and stack them on top of each other and see what that becomes. It's really learning through doing and learning through play. And, the child gets to direct where they're going to go and what they're going to do in this mobile museum.
So tell us about staff associated with this. When the museum makes stops, what happens?
We are still working out some of those details. We will eventually be hiring a mobile museum coordinator who will travel with the mobile museum around the county and educate children and their families and really help guide them through the process. We're also hoping to have a dedicated group of volunteers that will go out, as well as inviting partner organizations to join us and kind of, caravan over to wherever we may be so that families can access a bunch of things at once.
Okay, so why a mobile museum? Why not just save up and invest in a brick and mortar facility where students and young people can come and explore and learn and play?
Absolutely. So we do intend to eventually build a brick and mortar museum. That's kind of the next phase of this whole project. But starting with the mobile museum was really unique because, as we know, Doña Ana County is so spread out. There are areas that are so remote, and there are people in our community who can't easily come to Las Cruces, or they can't easily get somewhere. So by going to them, we're bringing the resources to them, and it makes it easier to access and more comfortable. And quite frankly, it's just a different opportunity where, we're not expecting people to come and travel an hour each way. We're just going to show up, in the park down the street, and you can come down and play.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about what's behind this play-based learning, and what is really the motivation with it, and how can it help young people learn?
Play-based learning is really important because that's how kids experience the world around them, especially with, we're focused on ages 3 to 5 with this initial rollout of Los Niños. And kids aren't going to learn as well by sitting and being talked to. They need to experience, they need to play. For example, to understand how gears work, we're gonna have a magnetic wall where they can turn the gears and see how they relate and what that might do. Or, with a microscope looking under it to see what all the different colors in a rock might be. And it really enables kids to show their curiosity and to really experience what interests them and to get as deep into it as they want to. We're also going to be working with parents and helping them, parents are their children, families are their children's first teacher. So helping guide the families, and this is how you interact with your child in this exhibit. This is what you might be able to bring home and replicate in their home so that they're able to continue doing this beyond when they're in the museum.
Okay, so in the press release that your organization released, you cited data from NMSU Center for Community Analysis that said about 14% of children ages 0 to 2 are in free or subsidized evidence-based quality early childhood education. How do you think that this mobile museum can really make a difference in improving education for young people, very young people in our county?
Right. I think, first of all, it's providing access. It's providing access to materials, to toys, to activities that they may not have in their homes or in their centers. It's enrichment activities, and it's more. And we, as part of our museum, we're going to have a family resource center with information about different centers, care, different resources that are just available to families so that they can really understand what more they can do, what more is available to them, what other help or guidance that they can receive. Because raising a child's not easy, and I think we all, it's a community, so there's definitely commitment to that.
One of the issues also, though, in Doña Ana County is just transportation in general. Many families face this issue, whether it's getting to work, whether it's being able to transport kids to quality child education. This is an issue that's been happening in our county for quite some time. So how do you think this museum can help address that issue?
I think by going to families, by going to neighborhoods and areas where there aren't resources, where literacy fairs may not come down the street, where schools may not have the resources or choose to do a certain activity there, the RV is going to show up, and we're able to do that because an RV can go most places. And we're able to kind of bring that to them and bring that to people where they are instead of requiring them to go somewhere else or finding a ride to get somewhere or figuring out how they're going to take the extra time off. They can just drop by for an hour instead of having to spend an hour driving, an hour there and an hour driving home.
Okay, now you're talking about an RV. Tell us about this RV, the design, what you're looking at with it.
The RV is incredible. So we recently purchased a 42-foot toy hauler RV. We gutted it, which was crazy to see this RV then empty. And we are retrofitting it into a mobile children's museum. So we'll have about 470 square feet of space for kids to come in and play. And we will have activities ranging from, the video microscope, pet vet, literacy and reading, and a light table. We'll have musical instruments and big blocks and a gear wall, and really just so many things that you would find in a typical children's museum, just smaller and in an RV.
That's exciting.
Yes.
And with this plan of a mobile museum, when is it going to be officially rolling out? Do you have an idea?
We hope by the end of the year. That is dependent on securing the remainder of our funding. So we are so grateful to Senator Heinrich and the federal allocation we've received. We still need to raise about another $200,000 to really be able to turn this into what our community needs. So that is the challenge ahead of us to get running, is raising the rest of the funds to do it.
Okay, now when you have those funds raised and the design, how do you see the rollout of this museum happening when it's ready to go?
I think, partnering first with organizations we've worked with and just saying, okay, what date do you want us there? And this is what we're going to do. and really just going out, evenings, weekends, and being available to families at the times that are best for them. So I think it's going to be very busy at the beginning. We hope it stays busy, but eventually we hope to kind of repeat and go to the same places so families can have these experiences. But we kind of know at the beginning we're going to be going everywhere and trying to get to everybody, because it is such an exciting thing to have in our community.
Now, is the museum going to be more active in the summer, or is it going to be active all year round?
Year round. So it's not going to be limited to summer. It really is going to be year round, because there are so many opportunities. On weekends, on Saturdays, we could bring it down to the farmer's market, or if there's a special event at a school, we can go be part of that. So by being mobile, we're really flexible and can kind of go anywhere and do almost anything.
That's really exciting. When this is up and running, how important is it to communicate with your partners throughout the community on where you're going to be and what the plan is for each stop?
That will definitely be a priority. We, as the Success Partnership, we have an amazing communications team that we will work closely with and rely heavily on. And also working with our partner organizations. If we're going to an LCPS, Early Childhood Center, hoping that they reach out to their families to let them know that this resource is coming, in addition to us sharing on all of our social media and other outreach, to let people know that this is where we're going to be and they're welcome to come check it out.
Now, technology these days is pretty amazing, and it's so incorporated in learning. How is that going to play a role with this museum?
So that's something that we're still figuring out. And what's really cool about the design that we have is things can kind of be changed and tweaked a little bit as we get more into it. We do have several screens that are part of the RV. RVs now are, apartments or condos on wheels, so it's amazing. So we are going to utilize a lot of the technology that was already in the RV when we purchased it. And really trying to be interactive with it. So rather than kids, watching a show, if it's a dance, and we'll, encourage them to do dance and movement out on the front patio, or sing along or things like that.
Tell us about community feedback with this project. How has that been so far?
Everybody's asking, where is it? When can I go? So I haven't talked to a single person about the project who kind of turns their nose up or isn't interested. Every single person I've talked to, whether they have kids, grandkids, no kids, are an educator, know nothing about education, are all so excited about this and what it can be. Because I think so many people have memories of going to a children's museum and having this experience at some point in their childhood. I know I'm from St. Louis. I grew up going to the Magic House, which is the children's museum in St. Louis. And it was such a magical, wonderful place that I'm so excited to be able to bring that experience to kids here in Las Cruces and Doña Ana.
There's been so much talk about establishing this museum and the need for a children's museum, not only in our community, but other communities and nearby communities, El Paso, up in Albuquerque, across New Mexico. This idea has been presented. So what is it about this idea that you think can really make a difference for families and children and learning at such a young age?
I think it gives children and their families just experiences that they wouldn't otherwise have. And it's a way to do it together. Kids go to school and they learn with their teachers, and they have access to things in classrooms, but they don't necessarily have that at home, and their parents and their families aren't doing it alongside them. So by being in a children's museum, your family's part of the play, and older siblings and younger siblings and aunts and grandparents are all part of this experience. So it is very much focused on the child, but it's also focused on the whole family. And it's a really great way to just bring everybody together and to learn through play. And that's something that I think we all forget to do, even as adults, is just to take time to play and have fun and learn that way.
Oh, it's always a challenge, I think, at any age.
Yes.
With this museum, I want to talk really about what you see the legacy of it, or maybe the impact of a museum stop when it stops in one of the nearby communities and young people are able to attend the museum with their family and learn. What's the ripple effect of that?
I think it's learning that this is a resource that's available, learning that this is a thing, encouraging the families to continue playing with their kids and helping them learn that way, and connecting them to resources, to knowing what else is available, to knowing that this is a resource, but there's also home visiting programs and other early childhood centers and all of these other things that they can take advantage of. You know, one of the things we'll be doing are take-home kits, where, you know, families can take home an activity to be able to do that at home. And just really kind of emphasizing, you know, the importance of education, the access to education, and play-based learning again, and just, you know, that play is so much more than play. It really is an important thing in childhood development.
Yeah, it's really amazing how we all learn it at various ages. But what about businesses or child care facilities who are educating young children? How do you think they can benefit from this museum?
We are definitely willing to work with them, and that's one of the things we plan to do, is to visit child care providers and have their kids come in and have this experience as kind of a field trip, but meet you where you are field trip, so you don't have to transport kids, or providing it after hours so families can join in as well.
That's really exciting. You know, just there's so many issues and challenges facing early childhood education in our region and care. With this project, how do you think it can really open some eyes to some of those challenges?
I think it addresses them head on. I mean, we're not hiding from the challenges, and you know, a lot of it comes down to just lack of access, whether a lack of access at being there, or lack of access being able to get to it, or just not knowing. I mean, there's so many people, you don't know what you don't know. So if this isn't something that you've experienced, if these resources aren't something you're used to, how would you even know to ask for them? So I think we own that there's challenges, and I think, you know, one of the biggest ones we're facing head on is by being mobile and by being able to go to people who can't come somewhere else.
What other challenges are you finding with this museum and just early childhood education in our region? I know that this is something that you must do some research on as you're trying to develop plans for this museum. What are the major challenges? We've mentioned a couple with just having enough facilities and transportation. Any other challenges?
I think providers they're tired, and I think, you know, our early childhood providers need to be supported, and, you know, wages and resources and support. And that is a lot of what the Success Partnership does, and one of the action networks actually of the Early Childhood Coalition is supporting the early childhood workforce and really working with them with what training do they need, what resources do they need, what, you know, trying to celebrate them, and just trying to really help early childhood educators especially understand how much they are appreciated. They're in the work because they care about it. They work in early childhood because it's something that's important to them. But it's important to us as a Success Partnership, as Ngage, to really make sure that they know how much we appreciate them and all of the work they do and the dedication that they show every day to their students and families.
What are some things that you think could be addressed with early childhood education that could help out your mission with this museum? We've mentioned the transportation, we've mentioned just access, cost of just being able to find affordable cost. So there's a lot of challenges that I think folks in our region face with this issue. Perhaps there's other challenges with language barrier, technology. I'm thinking of just off the top of my head here, but like, what are some things you think need to be addressed to ensure that the Children's Museum can thrive and grow?
So absolutely. So one of the things that's really important with our museum is that everything will be bilingual. The educators that we have that will be going out with the mobile museum will be bilingual. All of our signage, all of our materials, every written or spoken thing we do will be available in both English and Spanish, because we recognize that not everybody speaks both. We want everybody to be able to use all of these resources. As of now, we plan for the mobile museum to be free. So there will be no cost to enter it, to use it. You know, we will see if that is a sustainable model. A lot of that is going to depend on the generosity of our community and community partners to really support it. But that is the hope with the mobile museum, is to keep it free and to keep it very, very accessible for everybody.
Yeah, accessible. Another challenge we haven't even talked about that a lot of folks are dealing with is the cost of fuel prices. How does that play a role in your plans? Are you considering options with that?
Oh, we are. So that is definitely part of our budget. I would say that's one of the budget line items, second to lumber and construction materials, that continues to fluctuate, and that we're trying to be responsive. Because essentially we are going to need a large diesel dually truck to be able to haul the museum, and that's not going to take a small amount of fuel to get around. So that's just, you know, that it's a cost that we have to build in. It's not ideal, but, you know, it's the cost of business. It's just what we're going to have to address. And continue to find funding for, because I think it is so important that we're not limited in where we go because of the cost of fuel.
Now, is this museum experience, the mobile museum experience, going to be one where people are going in and traveling throughout the RV, or is it something to where there's exhibits going to be set up outside of the RV as well?
It's going to be both, which is what's really great. So when you walk in, we call it the workshop area, and it'll have 3 workbenches with discovery boxes with different activities, a video microscope, and the Parent Resource Center. Then we're going to kind of step up into the treehouse area, is what we've called it, which is going to be really focused on literacy and sensory learning, listening. That's where our pet vet will be, our light table, things like that. And then in the back, the garage of the toy hauler RV, which we have just kept the name garage because it seems to make sense. But that is where we're going to have, gears and an air wall and balls and things like that. In addition to outside, we'll have musical instruments and large foam construction blocks. And other activities that are kind of to be determined. And there's so much flexibility with this that we can add more, take away. Community partners are able to come and have their own activities, be part of it. Because, with 470-ish square feet, we can only have so many people in the unit at once that we want to be sure that we have things outside.
So when we're talking about addressing early childhood education in our region, how important is that to have quality early childhood education and learning options like the mobile museum? And how does that impact our economic development and an educated workforce in our region?
Learning begins day one. I think it's something, and I could be wrong on the numbers, but I believe it's about 1 million neural pathways are created every second in children from ages 0 to 3. And maybe it's not second, but there's an incredible amount of learning that happens in early childhood, and there's an incredible amount of responsiveness to your environment. And I think by kids loving to learn early, we hope that that'll carry through, the rest of their school and into their career development.
So with the plan of the mobile museum and these different exhibits and interactive play to learn things that you're going to have available for young people, how is the plan to keep those interchanging and updated?
I think, that is where the benefit of being a small nonprofit comes in, because we're able to kind of pivot and respond pretty quickly. That if we notice an exhibit is just not interesting, the kids don't want to do it, nobody's going, we will be able to kind of swap that out and find something that makes more sense. And that's where our partnerships with early childhood educators come in. Every piece of our mobile museum, every corner, our committee has been involved in kind of picking out what that's going to be. And Siteworks, our museum designer, have been incredible with taking all of these ideas that have been thrown at them, and they incorporate it all in this beautiful plan where these are the things that our partners, our early childhood educators, are saying that kids need. And we have tried to include all of it.
Now, you mentioned some play to learn experiences that children will be able to interact with.
Yeah.
What about the adults and the parents who are coming along? Anything that can help them out with resources that are available within the area?
So we're going to have our Parent Resource Center, which will be kind of a dedicated area with different, pamphlets and handouts. We'll use Symbify, which is our online referral program, and just have different ways to connect them with what they need. Our museum staff and our museum volunteers will be trained in knowing what's available and knowing where they can kind of guide families to find those resources.
Okay, so the mobile museum is the phase 1.
Yes.
What's phase 2?
Phase 2 is a brick and mortar museum that we are working on with the City of Las Cruces. We're in the process of conducting or starting a feasibility study to just see what that could be and what that should be. And we'll go from there once we get the results of the study.
Okay, we just have a couple of minutes left, but let's hear more about the future and what are your hopes and goals for this project, and where do you hope it can be in just a few years?
I would love, obviously we want the mobile museum up and running, but I think having a brick and mortar museum is such an incredible thing, to have this concrete place to go to have these experiences. And when you look at other cities, if you look at Albuquerque or Santa Fe, for example, they have incredible children's museums that when families visit, that's one of the places they definitely go. El Paso is about to open their new children's museum. there's no Las Cruces should have one too. I mean, it's hard to believe. A lot of people can't believe that we don't already have one. So it's something that I think our community needs, and there's a strong desire for. And I think it's something that our kids need. They need a place to go, they need a place to play, and they need, a place to just connect.
Now, it sounds really exciting with what you're doing. How can folks find out more information and learn more about it?
Yeah, if you go to vamosninos.org, that is our website where we have updates about what we're doing and what's happening. You can also contact me through that webpage, and I am happy to connect you with resources, talk to you. And of course, if anybody's interested in supporting the project, please reach out, because that is definitely one of the big things that we need right now.
Now, you mentioned that there seems to be an opportunity for folks to really get involved with this project and share their input.
There are a couple of ways you can get involved. If you want to be a volunteer, you can join the Children's Museum Committee and come be a volunteer with the museum. Or if you or a company would like to contribute, there are sponsorship opportunities available with the Mobile Museum.
Okay, that's very, very exciting.
Yes.
Kimmi Cravens is a museum development coordinator with Ngage New Mexico. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. And we want to thank you for joining us for another episode of Fronteras, Changing America. Don't forget, you can always keep up with this program anytime at our website, krwg.org. We're on social media as well. You can give us a thumbs up on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to the KRWG News YouTube channel. I'm Anthony Murno. We'll see you next time.